Vakratundaya Hum Shri Ganeshaya. We pray to that Divine Mother. Sarva Mangala Mangalye Shive Sarvartha Sadhike Sharanye Trambike Gauri Narayani Namostute. Om Aim Hrim Klim Chamundaye Viche. To Shankar Bhagwan, Satyam Shivam Sundaram, he is known as Nagendra Haraya Trilochanaya Bhasmangaragaya Maheshwaraya Nityaya Shuddhaya Digambaraya Tasmai Nakaraya Namaha Shivaya. Hara Nama Parvati Pataye Hara 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 Mahadev. We bow to the lotus-like feet of our Gurus. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Gurur Sakshat Para Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Shri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansa Chanur Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Guru. Om Klim Krishnaya Namaha. To Shri Ram, Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaye Pataye Namaha. Om Shri Sita Ramachandra Bhagavan Ki Jai. Hanuman Ji. Om Manojavam Maratulya Vegam Jitendriyam Buddhimatam Varishtam Vatatmajam Vanarayudhya Mukhyam Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadde. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Sarvebhyo Devebhyo Namo Namaha. Prem se bolo Shri Govind Krishna Bhagwan Ki Jai. Please take your seats comfortably. Ganesh Ji.
Gananatha Gajvardhan Gananatha Dinabandhu Gananatha Gajvardhan Gananatha Dinabandhu Gananatha Gajvardhan Gananatha Dinabandhu Gananatha Gajvardhan Gananatha गणनाथा गजवरदा गणनाथा दीनबन्धो
गणनाथा गजवरदा गणनाथा दीनबन्धो
सिद्धिदाता शिवतनया
सिद्धिदाता शिवतनया
सिद्धिदाता शिवतनया
सिद्धिदाता शिवतनया
सिद्धिप्रदायक गजानना
सिद्धिप्रदायक गजानना
पार्वती नन्दन भवभयभञ्जन
पार्वती नन्दन भवभयभञ्जन
पार्वती नन्दन भवभयभञ्जन
पार्वती नन्दन भवभयभञ्जन
युग युग वन्दन जय श्री गणेश
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 गणनाथा गजवरदा गणनाथा दीनबन्धो
गणनाथा गजवरदा गणनाथा दीनबन्धो
गणनाथा गजवरदा गणनाथा दीनबन्धो
गणनाथा गजवरदा गणनाथा दीनबन्धो
गणनाथा दीनबन्धो
गणनाथा दीनबन्धो
So बोलो श्री गणेश भगवान की जय. सीताराम सब कोई once again. It's wonderful to see all of you here today in your brilliant yellow and blue. It tells me that I have to invest in different colors in my quota. So because of our program today, when we finish at 9:30 rather than the 10, we will move straight into the Bhagavad Gita, our dhyanam, as we have been doing for the past few weeks. So once you let me know that the words are up, those of you who don't as yet have your Bhagavad Gitas, please collect one. I think that there are those on the side. And we will move straight into that aspect of this morning's service. The words are up. गोविंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो गोविंद बोलो हरि
गोपाल बोलो
गोविंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो
गोविंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो
गोविंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो
गोविंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो
गोविंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो
गोविंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो
राधा रमण हरि गोविंद बोलो राधा
रमण हरि गोविंद बोलो
राधा रमण हरि गोविंद बोलो राधा
रमण हरि गोविंद बोलो
राधा रमण हरि गोविंद बोलो राधा
रमण हरि गोविंद बोलो
गोविंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो गोविंद
बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो
राधा रमण Hari Gopal bolo.
गोविंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो
Govind bolo, Hari Gopal bolo.
गोविंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो
Govind bolo, Gopal bolo.
गोविंद बोलो गोपाल बोलो
Govind bolo, Gopal bolo.
गोविंद बोलो गोपाल बोलो
Radha Raman Hari Govind bolo.
राधा रमण हरि गोविंद बोलो
प्रेम से बोलो श्री गोविंद कृष्ण भगवान की जय. Let us all recite together. Thank you very much, Indira, for being the catalyst. Om. So, as we've done before, we've gone through all of the shlokas, so we will sing it slowly together. And we will sing together and pray together and do dhyanam. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavatam Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Grathitam Purana Munina Madhye Maha
भारतम
Advaitaamritavarshiniം Bhagavatīm Ashtadashaധ്യായനീം Amba Tvam Anusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavet Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Phularavindayata Patra Netraha Yena Tvaya Bharata Tailya Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamayah Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totravetrai Jnanamudraya Krishnaya
गीतामृतदुहे नमः
Sarva Upanishado Gavo
दोदा गोपालनन्दना
Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta
दुग्धं गीतामृतं महः
Vasudeva Sutam Devam
कंसचाणूरमर्दनम्
Devaki Paramanandam
कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्
Bhishma Drona Tatha Jayadhrala Jatha Gandhara Nilotpala Shalyagrahavati Kripena Vahani
कर्णेन
Velakula Ashwathama Vikarna Ghora Makara Duryodhana
वर्धिनी
Sotirna Khalu Pandavairananadhi Kaivartakaha
केशवा
Parasharya Vachah Sarojamamalam Geetartha Gandotkatham Nanakyanaka Kesaram Harikatha Sambodhana
बोधितम्
Loke Sajjana Shatpadairaharaha Pepiyamanam Muda Bhuyat Bharata Pankajam Kalimalam Pradvansinaha
श्रीयसे
Mukam Karoti Vachalam पङ्गुलङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे. The final shloka. Yam brahma varunendra rudra marutah stunvanti devyaistavai vedah sanga padakramopanishadai
Gayantiyam samaga
dhyanavastita targatena manasa पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यांतं न विदुसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः. गोविंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो गोविंद बोलो हरि
Gopal bolo
राधा रमण हरि गोविंद बोलो
Radha Raman Hari Govind bolo
गोविंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो.
Govind bolo Hari Gopal bolo.
Take your Bhagavad Gita's, bow. Open to chapter 2, verse number 40. Prem se bol Shri Govind Krishna Bhagavan ki. Now, today, I want to invite volunteers starting from next week. So I will have one volunteer, and if you don't volunteer, I may have to pick my own volunteers to take us through the reading, so that you would come up here and you would read the 10 shlokas as we've been doing before. So today is the last time that I myself alone will be doing it, together with Shambhu and all of you. So we go to verse number 40, just to get back into the frame of everything, and we read. Son, go ahead. In this path of disinterested action, there is no loss of effort, nor is there fear of contrary result. Even a little practice of this discipline saves one from the terrible fear of birth and death. Arjun, in this yoga of disinterested action, the intellect is determinate and directed singly to one's ideal, whereas the intellect of the undecided, that is, ignorant men moved by desires, wanders in all directions after innumerable aims. Arjun,
Those who are full of worldly desires and devoted to the letter of the Vedas, who look upon heavens as the supreme goal
And argue that there is nothing beyond heaven are unwise.
they utter flowery speech,
Recommending many rituals of various kinds for the attainment of pleasure and power, with rebirth as their fruit. Those whose minds are carried away by such words, and who are deeply attached to pleasures and worldly power, cannot attain determinate intellect concentrated on God.
Arjun, the Vedas thus deal with the evolutes of the three gunas, that's the modes of Prakriti, worldly enjoyments and the means of attaining such enjoyments. Be thou indifferent to these enjoyments and their means, rising above pairs of opposites like pleasure and pain, etc. Established in the eternal existence, God, absolutely unconcerned about the fulfillment of wants and the preservation of what has already been attained, and self-controlled. O Brahmana, who has obtained enlightenment, has as much use for all the Vedas as one who stands at the brink of a sheet of water, overflowing on all sides, has for a small reservoir of water. Your right is to work only, and never to the fruit thereof. Do not be the cause of the fruit of action, nor let your attachment be to inaction. Arjuna,
Perform your duties
established in yoga, renouncing attachment, and be even-minded in success and failure. Evenness of mind is called yoga.
action.
And with a selfish
action with a
motive
selfish motive is far inferior to this yoga in the form of equanimity. Do seek refuge in this equipoise of mind, Arjuna, for poor and wretched are those who are instrumental in making their actions bear fruit. And in our last shloka, endowed with equanimity, one sheds in this life both good and evil. Therefore, strive for the practice of this yoga of equanimity. Skill in action lies in the practice of this yoga. Prem Saborshi Govind Krishna Bhagwan ki jai. Close your Bhagavad Gitas, touch to your forehead, put it to the side, and we sit for a moment. We close our eyes, sit upright, focus on Krishna Bhagwan in our minds. If we are not able to picture him, we can open our eyes and look at him. If you prefer to look at Shivji Bhagwan, Durga Mata, Ganeshji, Hanumanji, fix your gaze and fix your focus on God as we sit for silent moment. We see his feet. We bring our eyes up to his clothing, his dhoti. To his trunk, to his mala coming down, and up to his hands, holding the beautiful bansuri, playing the beautiful sound, calling us to him. Take a deep breath in that moment. Hear the sound and see him smiling, see his eyes reaching out to us to give us security, comfort, love, and up to his beautiful crown where his peacock feather flutters in the wind. We come back down to his hands and look at his smile once again, calling us, saying to us, all will be well, blessing us, guiding us. And we take our gaze back down his trunk, looking at the pleats in his dhoti, falling beautifully as they do, and to his feet, where we once more rest our gaze. His beautiful feet. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Take a deep breath in and out, and in like the rushing tide, filling our entire senses with positivity, and then out. And last time in, and then out. Open our eyes, slowly focusing on Krishna Bhagwan. Prem se bol Shri Govind Krishna Bhagwan ki. प्रेम से बोल श्री गोविंद कृष्ण भगवान की Sitaram Sabkoi. Thank you for taking this journey with me once again, as we do every Sunday as best as we can. And now, because of our special program today, I would like to invite Deena ji to take us forward from this path. We will have no children's class today. The children that are here, therefore, join together with us in listening to the message that needs to be taught and told to us today. Deena ji, please, we invite you.
Sitaram. Really humbling and overwhelming actually to see everyone in their yellow and blue this morning. So firstly I'd like to thank you all for coming out. So our hold on. Okay, Sitaram again, everyone. As I said, thank you all for coming out this morning to join us in this venture to create awareness for Down syndrome. We have a short presentation, it's not going to be very long. So this morning I have with me, as you know, my son Kavir is Down syndrome. He'll be 7 in August, and the journey has really started with him, right? Before that, I may have been like everyone else, you know, rocking my socks, and not really understanding fully the extent to which, you know, this Down syndrome is, right? So our journey started, we're trying to find out school for him. First I had a friend from New York that actually reached out to me. Kavri was a year and a few months. And she was like, you know, she don't need to pry, but is he Down syndrome? So I said, yes. So she said, well, her son is Down syndrome and he's 10. But, you know, being in New York, there's access to so much. From the time they're born, it's like you get occupational therapy, you have speech therapy, you have everything coming to you at the facilities. Here it's a lot different. I pretty much got the diagnosis. The doctor just asked me if I noticed anything different, and I said, no. And he's like, well, he's Down syndrome, and if you have any questions, Google it, you know, and if you know, Google it, and if you have any questions, come back to me. And I was like, okay, this was 7 years ago, in modern time, I would think, and no real information, no resources available to me right there and then, you know. And I've always had it in my mind to start doing something to create awareness. And, you know, they say the quantum universe always, you know, conspire with us to make things happen. It has been a thought. And funny enough, the management of Krishna Mandir and the Sri Sevak Sabha has pretty much brought this awareness, you know, here today. And I'm really, really humbled and really grateful. So our first speaker today is Kavir's principal. She started a school 6 years ago, almost 7 years ago here in Trinidad, just at the time that I was actually looking for somewhere to send Kavir. I saw this sign and I called. She had not started as yet. And I didn't even know how to start the conversation with her. You know, how do I say, well, he's Down syndrome, I don't know if the school is going to take him, that kind of thing, you know. So she's here today. Her name is Miss Anisa Bachmambur, born in TT but migrated to Canada at the age of 4. She grew up in a home with both parents being teachers and who instilled the belief that every child is capable, competent, and can learn and can become valuable members of any society. She went to McGill and Concordia universities in Montreal, and specializes in all aspects of early childhood and primary education, including special education. She had 2 inclusive schools in Toronto, and as I said, she has opened Smart Start Academy here in Trinidad and Tobago, right in San Fernando. And she has successful experience with kids with Down syndrome. And I'm inviting her this morning to come and give you all a brief talk on Down syndrome. So Ms. Anissa, I'll invite you to the podium.
Thank you very much, everyone. It's an honor to be here because I'll tell you a tiny bit of history of why we ended up coming to Trinidad to open our preschools. First, it was a preschool. We had 2 in Toronto, and they were large schools, 107, licensed for 107 each. And my husband and I were here on vacation. My parents live in Trinidad. And we decided to visit some schools, and we were actually quite disturbed and appalled at what was going on, how children were being treated, and how the lack of research or the use of research was being used in schools. So we decided to sell our schools and come here. Dina was actually the very first person to call me as we were setting up the school. And at that point, I didn't realize that children with differing abilities were treated different. Because in Canada, they're not really treated different. They are integrated, both in schools and societies. Children don't really notice differences unless parents send out those vibes or verbally speak to them about the differences. And she started speaking to me, and I actually found some of her questions a little bit strange because she had a presumption that and you could tell in her voice that she was a little bit worried about even asking any questions about Kavir. And now that was in 2018, and I'm still finding that because when we get calls from parents with children of differing abilities, they don't tell us up front. They're afraid that we will say no straight off the bat. And unfortunately, that is the culture in schools here. My main purpose today is to explain how Down syndrome can be treated in schools, like from teachers, from society, etc. And what we notice is that children, whether Down syndrome or any other differing ability, if they're treated as the norm and expected to behave as the norm, they will behave as the norm, what we call the norm. When we look at them differently and show them that they are different, then they will behave differently. So one thing we tell our children at school is they have 2 eyes, they have a nose, they have a mouth, they have 2 ears, they have hair, they have 2 legs, 2 arms, they have a heart. So what is different? And children cannot tell you what is different because that's what they see, is someone that looks just like them. What is different, and we told our grade 1 children, is the speed that they learn may be different. does not mean that they cannot learn. My mother actually had a child that she taught probably around 40 years ago graduate from university. Down syndrome. There are different degrees of Down syndrome, just like there are different degrees of intelligence in any child or any person. And depending on the degree, children can grow up to be self-sufficient. They can have jobs. But if they're not given the opportunities when they're young to develop skills so that they could be self-sufficient, they won't become. Just like any other person. If you keep a child who is quote unquote have normal abilities, if you keep him in a cage, he's not going to be a self-sufficient adult no matter what. So with children of any differing abilities, we have to give them the opportunity. We have to treat them as everyone else. We have to show them that they are respected, and they will show you that you are respected. Now, Down syndrome children, there are a few characteristics which some people don't realize. So they are very, very loving children. They are more affectionate than the average child, naturally affectionate. They learn by seeing. They are much more sensitive to emotions, so they will feel vibes from other people quicker than the average child. And they will react to those vibes in either, they will never be aggressive, at least not on purpose. They could, however, introvert themselves if they feel that they're not welcomed. And one way that they feel they're not welcomed is just by facial expressions or body language. They can sense, more so than the average child, how they're being accepted or included. Now, in our school, we now have 2 Down syndrome children. One just started last week. And before that child started, I did have a conversation with our grade 1, standard 1 children, because that's the class that she would have been in. And I said to them, because we would never spring it on children like that, because we don't know what preconceived notions they already have from home or from society. So we did start speaking to them about, we wrote on the board, Down syndrome. So right away, the curiosity of children take over, and they said, "Miss, what's that?" And I said, well, in our bodies, we have something that makes us who we are, and they're chromosomes. And Down syndrome is a condition where you're born with an extra chromosome. And that extra chromosome, so you don't go into too much detail, that extra chromosome makes you look different, but you still have everything that all other children have. You have your 2 eyes, you have your nose, you have your mouth, you have your hair, arms, legs, etc. But you learn differently. You might not be able to learn at the same speed as your friends, but it does not mean that you can't learn. And you might be a little bit more sensitive. So we went through that, and then I said to them, I said, so, you know the girl that came through a few days ago to say hello? I said, well, she has Down syndrome. And I said, do you know anybody else in our school that might have Down syndrome? And it was only at that point that they realized that Kavir was a Down syndrome child. He had Down syndrome. Before that, nobody ever saw him as different. So I said to them, I said, okay, so if she is in your class, your responsibilities would be to include her in your play, help her learn, show her what is the right way to behave, and etc. And I said, so how do you feel about having her in your class? I was waiting for a hesitation because that would tell me a lot. There was absolutely no hesitation. They said, yes, miss, we want her in the class. So I did mention to them she will not be doing the same work as all of you because, remember, we said she learns at a different speed. So you have had 7 years or 8 years of learning at a certain speed. She's had a much slower rate of learning, so she wouldn't be working in the same math book or doing the same writing or anything like that. However, she will be doing writing when you all do writing, just a different one. She will be doing math when you all do math, but a different one. And they were okay with that. So she has been in school for about a week and a half, I guess. And we were outside, and they were playing soccer, and her mom came to pick her up, and she couldn't believe because she was playing as normal, and she has a back brace and everything, but she was running and playing as normal as could be. And her mom was really taken aback because it's never happened before where she was in an environment where the kids included her. In fact, they included her to the point where I had to actually tell them, let her at least touch the ball, because they were treating her just like any other child, being competitive with her and not looking at her as, okay, I've got to be very careful, she's different, nothing like that. Now that is a child being exposed to a child with Down syndrome. An adult who has had many years of preconceived notions or lack of education or information about Down syndrome, what I have noticed here, any child with differences, whether it's on the spectrum, whether they have Down syndrome, and by the way, there is a spectrum for all different learning differences, even for children who do not have learning disabilities. There's still a spectrum of whether they're not as intelligent as another child, but it doesn't mean they can't learn. They may learn differently. Every child learns differently, and that is with Down syndrome too. So awareness, in my opinion, should be not to say, okay, well, this child has Down syndrome, so therefore we need to treat him this way. It's not that. Awareness is he has Down syndrome, he has some limitations, but those limitations should not keep him or her back from reaching their potential, whatever their potential is. Some Down syndrome children end up quite advanced. They, as I said, we've had a child in Canada. I mean, I'm sure there are many more, but we have had experience in our family with a child finishing university. Now, obviously, they're not going to finish university in medicine or engineering or being a lawyer, but they finished university with enough skills that they are now holding down a perfectly lucrative job. Now, lucrative in your standards might not be a cashier at a Walmart, but in their standards, they're making money. They're making a living for themselves. They can live on their own. And to be very honest with you, diverting a little bit, children here at the age of 21 compared to children in United States or in Canada, we would look at them and say, oh my gosh, you can't do your laundry? You can't cook? because it is expected of our children up there. Nobody's going to run up to the university and have all these containers of food for you to pop in the microwave. You have to learn to cook yourself. You have to learn to do the groceries. You've got to learn to do the laundry. So it is expectations. It's not that the children can't do that here. It's because it's not expected. And that is exactly the same for Down syndrome or any child with any differing abilities. You have to expect it from them. You have to show them. And they learn from what they are exposed to. So by treating them differently, talking to them differently, talking down to them. By that I mean, you have two children there, 7 years of age, and you say to one, "Oh, hi, so-and-so, what did you do today?" And carrying on a conversation. And the next 7-year-old who has Down syndrome, you barely say hi, you pat them on the head, and you move away. Why wouldn't you have a full-on conversation with the child? Even if they are non-verbal, they could still nod their head, they could use body language to show you things, they can point. So those things is what teaches a child whether they are included in the rest of society or if they're excluded. And we don't say accepted, we don't say tolerated, because tolerated means that you don't really want them, but fine, you'll tolerate the fact that they're here. Accepted means you're just going to accept them. You may not want it, but you'll accept them. Included means that they are included in your world, in your life. Society has included them in its functioning. So Down syndrome, and this is, I keep saying, it's for any differing abilities. It is something that we have to allow our children to naturally gain that. We cannot, it's not something that we can only teach. We're having to teach it because children have preconceived notions depending on their home and what they have learned along the way from parents, relatives, brothers, sisters, etc. They would not be like that unless they have been exposed to negativity on those lines. A perfect example is I have a disability. I was born blind, and that's why we immigrated. My parents were teachers here, and we immigrated, and they ended up getting their master's and PhD in education, and we were always their guinea pigs because we were young. And I remember in Canada, nobody ever noticed that my eyes were different. No child ever came up and said, "What's wrong with your eyes?" Here, every child I meet, that's one of the first questions is, "What's wrong with your eye?" And why is that? Because they have learned to spot differences. And I had never experienced that. And I was very exposed in Canada. We had to take hockey, skating, diving, swimming, every possible thing you could think of, soccer. And never once did a child ever comment about that. And here, the amount of comments I get and the amount of questions, and it's not just curiosity, it's because they have noticed. So they are not inclusive. I think Dina, she was telling me a story last night about a child who comes to school, and his mom was apparently telling him that he has to be kind to Kavir. And the child's response to her, his mom, was, "Why?" He's just like me. He's strong. He takes his vitamins. Why did that child not see the differences? It's because in our community, the community of the school, teachers do not treat them any different. So the children do not treat them any different. The majority of our children are normal, we'll say normal, just for the sake of saying normal learners. We have differing abilities integrated in school, so the children in our school have learned to be inclusive. They don't get off the bike and give it to another child just because that child is different, because they don't see them as different. So, and the same thing with, they're not going to speak to them any differently. The same way they speak to their friends with normal abilities, they will speak to children with differing abilities. As they get older, they also learn to defend. We had a child last summer in camp, and this is where you can see the society that we live in here. You can see how it is affecting the whole notion of inclusion. We had a child from another school join our camp, and they said to the children in the room, it was another child who has differing abilities. She is so weird. Don't play with her. I don't want her to play this game. She's weird. One of our kids who were in the camp stood up and said, she is not weird. She has autism. She's not weird. She learns differently. She behaves differently. We have to show her how to behave. And that warmed my heart, because I wasn't here, I was in Toronto, but the teacher called me and said, you're going to be so proud of our kids. And that is exactly what we're aiming for, because it is a responsibility of our children and of ourselves to make sure that every child is included, because those children are our future, whether they're normal, and I hate that word, but whether they are average or if they're special. They are going to be our future. If we knock them down now as children, what is going to happen to our future? And just going to end by saying, always remember, special education is not on this end of the scale. All of my children were considered as special education children, but they were in gifted classes. They had a 99 percentile intelligence in North America, but they were in special ed classes, because whether you're down here or up there and you're not in the middle, you are considered special education. So the whole thing in Trinidad about differing abilities being something that shouldn't be included in schools, they should be, but they do need help. Sometimes they need an aid, and sometimes they don't. It depends on the child, but you don't sweep them under the rug, which is what I see happening a lot. So we all have to be advocates for our children as well as children with differing abilities. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Anissa, for that presentation and bringing awareness to Down syndrome. We have one short video. My friend's daughter did a short video on her perspective of Down syndrome. So that's a 6-minute video. Amaral will run that now.
Hello and good morning to you all. My name is Syra Maces. I am a Standard 4 student of the Sevilla Private Primary School. I am very happy to be included in today's event as I am a Down syndrome ambassador. I first learned about Down syndrome through my family's friendship and interaction with the same family. In October of 2021, for Down Syndrome Awareness Month, we all participated in the Buddy Walk/Run organized by the Down Syndrome Family Network of Trinidad and Tobago. In preparation for this walk, it was important to my parents that I have a better understanding of Down syndrome, what it is, what persons with Down syndrome face daily, and what I could do to help. We learned how important it is for us all to be informed and do our part to educate others, to change attitudes, to raise expectations, to support equality, and champion inclusion. This is a picture of us walking with our signs, having fun, and standing with our friends in support. Passers-by even stopped and asked about the purpose of our walk, and it felt so good to have the information to share with them, and hopefully it made them want to do their own research. The other picture shows me addressing my classmates at morning assembly. Now armed with this new knowledge, I felt I needed to do my part to talk to my friends, to quell concerns, to encourage education, and stress how important it is that persons with Down syndrome to be included and be afforded the same rights as everyone else. So here's what I shared with them. What is Down syndrome? It is a genetic disorder or condition in which a baby is born with an extra chromosome. Chromosomes are like threads or structures in our cells that are like an instruction manual and determines how our bodies work, like how strong we will be, how tall we will be, or what color our hair will be. When a baby has that extra chromosome, the way they look, learn, and develop will be affected. Every year on March 21st, people all around the world come together to celebrate Down Syndrome Day by wearing brightly colored mismatched socks. This day is symbolic because people with Down syndrome have 3 copies of their 21st chromosome. My friend Kavir Singh was born with Down syndrome. This condition made it harder for him to speak and move and remember things. Kavir can learn, laugh, hug, and run about like me. But it just took him longer to do those things, and he had to do it at his own pace. Some other interesting facts I learned about Down syndrome are that Down syndrome is not contagious. You cannot catch it from playing with a child who has Down syndrome. Some persons with Down syndrome have certain facial features like almond-shaped, almost slanted eyes. This is because their muscle tone is low, which also affects how quickly they learn to creep, walk, run around, and talk. When a person has Down syndrome, it's a condition they are born with, and as such, they prefer when we say a person with Down syndrome or Kavir has Down syndrome, rather than saying a Down's child. It does not define who they are. Persons with Down syndrome can learn, do sports, sing, dance, become an actor, become a model, an artist, and do pretty much anything we can do, especially with the right opportunities and in their own time. Persons with Down syndrome want and deserve to be treated with love and respect and be included in all aspects of life. Children with Down syndrome are generally happy with a positive attitude. However, they all feel the same emotions we do. It may sometimes be hard for them to show it, so we need to check in with them and the same way you would with any of your friends. It is very sad and disappointing that persons with Down syndrome are sometimes made fun of or called mean names. Most times, it is just because people do not understand the condition. We need to raise awareness and educate our friends and family to change this and to support and celebrate those in our community with Down syndrome. Most importantly, children with Down syndrome can be your friends to play, laugh, and have fun with. And just like you and me, they may have goals and dreams they want to achieve. We can help by ensuring they have the rights to follow those dreams. After learning all I did about Down syndrome, I realized that my little buddy Kavir may learn differently, but he loves the stage. As real friends count on each other, they don't count chromosomes. So the next time you see a child with Down syndrome, don't stare or laugh or be afraid. Instead, smile, wave, say hello, and even make a new friend. I'll be rocking my socks and sharing what I know about Down syndrome this week as I stand with the members of the Down syndrome community. And you can too, just by sharing what you know and participating in events like this. Hope you have fun today. Thank you.
Okay, sit around everyone again. Thank you so much for spending your time this morning with us for this short presentation. Pretty much that's it in terms of what we have for the formal part of this presentation. And once again, I'd love to thank the management and of Krishna Mandir and the Sri Sevak Sabha for giving us this opportunity to highlight and bring awareness to Down syndrome. Remember, 21st of March is Down Syndrome Awareness Day, so continue rocking your socks, and not just on that day, but let's spark conversations with persons, you know. If you see someone with not just Down syndrome, a different ability, you know, reach out, ask how they're doing, you know. That's probably all that they need, you know. So thanks again, and let's have some fun now with our walk. I'll pass it on to Pandit Rudy to take us through.
Thank you very, very much, Dina. Please give her a round of applause and to our wonderful guest, Miss Anissa, this morning. I'd like to invite the chairman to the podium so he can give us some directions on the walk. So Mukesh, if you can come up so that persons could be aware as to the route and what's taking place. While our chairman is coming forward, if anybody parked their vehicle at the building on the corner of Farah and Todd Street, there's a church house at that building, and they conduct their services as well at a Sunday morning at a later time than us. So if you parked your vehicle there, we're kindly asking you to remove your vehicle to allow members of that congregation to utilize their parking spaces. You may not have been aware that the church has services at a later time, but they do. So if your vehicle is parked at the corner of Farah Street and Todd Street, that's the building just up at the corner, we're asking you to kindly remove your vehicle at this time. Thank you. Hand over to our chairman.
Sitaram, dear members. Now we have some instructions by the police that we are not to start until they arrive. I've given them the time at 9:45 to be here. Alternatively, if it is that the patrol vehicle is called out on any other issues, they are going to be here for 9:45. So I don't want to stay very long. However, the walk is going to take us down to Scrimger Street. We are going to turn left into Shah Street, which is the street that encircles the temple. Up Westwood Street, very short walk, down Hickling Street, and onto Knox Street. At Knox Street, there's tents and a pavilion, as well as refreshments will be served. We also should have, I know this morning already, CNC3 came outside, and Ivan Tulsi had called to do an interview. I've already informed Dina that she'll be the point person together with Pandit Rudy to do that interview. So I'm just informing Pandit Rudy. So nonetheless, I want to wish everyone a safe journey on the walk, and just take instructions from the police, not from me. Okay? So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mukesh. Right, so we will conclude now. I'm just getting some instructions here. Vehicle PEC 1084, vehicle PEA 7818, vehicle PDZ 6396. If any of those, you're the driver of any of those vehicles, again, I'll repeat them. PDZ 6396, PEA 7818, or PEC 1084. Please kindly remove your vehicle at this time. As you know, we commence our Navratri celebrations this Wednesday, and we would invite you to come to our satsangs nightly and our puja, which will commence at 6 p.m. every night. This will continue for the 9 nights, and on the 30th, we will be celebrating Ram Navami, and that celebration, it's a holiday, so that celebration will be taking place from 10 a.m. on that day, on the 30th of March, and lunch will be served. So we are invited for every night of Navratri, and then to culminate as well on Ram Navami on the 30th of March at 10 a.m. So every evening from 6 p.m. and then Ram Navami at 10 a.m. on the 30th. I want to extend very happy birthday wishes to all persons who are celebrating their birthday. Mati is celebrating a birthday tomorrow, and other persons who are celebrating their birthdays. We want to extend birthday greetings to you. If you are celebrating anniversaries or anything that is of that kind of joyous nature, we want to extend our congratulations to you and best wishes as well. And we now invite you to please stand for final arti and then closing prayer.
Om Jai Jagadish Hare Swami Jai Jagadish Hare Bhakt Jano ki sankat Das Jano ki sankat Shan mein dur kare Om Jai Jagadish Hare Jo ध्यावे फल पावे दुख बिन से मन का स्वामी दुख बिन से मन का सुख संपत्ति घर आवे सुख संपत्ति घर आवे कष्ट मिटे तन का ओम जय जगदीश हरे मात पिता तुम मेरे शरण कहो किसकी स्वामी शरण कहो किसकी तुम बिन और न दूजा तुम बिन और न दूजा आश करो जिसकी ओम जय जगदीश हरे मात पिता तुम मेरे शरण कहो किसकी शरण कहो किसकी तुम पूरन परमात्मा तुम अंतर्यामी स्वामी तुम अंतर्यामी पार ब्रह्म परमेश्वर पार ब्रह्म परमेश्वर तुम सबके स्वामी ओम जय जगदीश हरे तुम करुणा के सागर तुम पालन करता स्वामी तुम पालन करता हम सेवक तुम स्वामी हम सेवक तुम स्वामी कृपा करो भरता ओम जय जगदीश हरे तुम हो एक अगोचर सबके प्राणपति स्वामी सबके प्राणपति किस विधि मिलो दया में किस विधि मिलो दया में तुम हो मैं तुम की ओम जय जगदीश हरे दीन बंधु दुख हरता तुम
रक्षक मेरे, स्वामी तुम रक्षक मेरे, अपने हाथ उठाओ, अपने हाथ उठाओ, द्वार पर आ तेरे। ओम जय जगदीश हरे, जय विकार मिटाओ, पाप हरो देवा, स्वामी पाप हरो देवा। श्रद्धा भक्ति बढ़ाओ, श्रद्धा प्रेम बढ़ाओ, संतन के सेवा। ओम जय जगदीश हरे, तन मन धन सब है तेरा, स्वामी सब कुछ है तेरा, तेरा तुझको अर्पण, तेरा तुझको अर्पण, क्या लागे मेरा। ओम जय जगदीश हरे, ओम जय जगदीश हरे, स्वामी जय जगदीश हरे। भक्त जनों के संकट, दास जनों के संकट, क्षण में दूर करे। ओम जय जगदीश हरे, ओम जय जगदीश हरे, ओम जय जगदीश हरे।
Hari Om. As we assume that position of reverence, as we close our eyes and bow our heads in prayer, as we surrender ourselves completely to that divine being, recognizing the omniscience, the omnipotence, the mercy and the grace of God. O Prabhu, we come before you this morning as your child, filled with love, filled with devotion, expressing our gratitude to you for all of the blessings that you've bestowed and continue to bestow upon us. We ask for your guidance, we ask for your inspiration, we ask for your protection and your mercy. We pray this morning not only for ourselves and our families, but we pray as well for persons who may be ill, persons who may be ailing in the hospitals or the nursing homes or at home. We ask you to bless them and to restore them to good health. To persons who may have lost their loved ones, we ask you to give them that strength and that solace to overcome their difficulty at this time. To those persons who are on a deviant pathway, we ask you to redirect their actions and their thoughts to once more lead them closer to you. For, O Lord, you are mother and father, you are family, you are friend, you are knowledge, you are wealth, you are everything to us. We surrender ourselves completely to you. We join in prayer. Hari Om. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhu Cha Seka Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Om Sato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurama Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. प्रेम से बोले श्री गणेश भगवान की जय, उमापति महादेव की जय, बिंद्रावन बिहारी लाल की जय, आज शक्ति जगदम्बा देवी मैया की जय, श्री पवन पुत्र हनुमान की जय, प्रेम से बोले श्री सत्य सनातन धर्म की जय. In greeting to everyone, सबको जय सीताराम, जय सीताराम, जय सीताराम. May Bhagwan bless us all. May we have a very safe and productive week ahead. May we have a very safe walk now. And I invite you, please, as you leave the Mandir, if you haven't yet purchased your socks, you have the ability to do so. And please join in a very orderly manner and in a very safe manner as we engage in the walk to Knox Street and Robin Recreations Park. Jai Sitaram all.
बार बार दिल ये आए, बार बार दिल ये आए,
Happy birthday